often came wrapped in familiar faces. But as his 8-year-old son Tyler's trembling voice echoed through their suburban home, Derek realized he'd missed the most dangerous threat of all. "Daddy, lock the door. Right now." The urgency in Tyler's whisper sent ice through Derek's veins. His wife Chloe had left for her sister's house barely 15 minutes ago, claiming she needed to help with wedding preparations. The timing now felt surgical in its precision. "Why, buddy?" Derek asked, his training kicking in as he scanned the living room for potential weapons. Tyler pointed toward the backyard with a shaking finger. "Mommy's friend is here. He told me to stay in my room until his work with you is done." The words hit Derek like a sledgehammer. His son's innocent description painted a picture that made Derek's blood boil. Someone had not only violated his marriage, but had the audacity to threaten him through his child. Derek grabbed his phone to call the police, his finger hovering over the numbers. That's when he saw the shadow move past the kitchen window. A tall figure, moving with purpose toward the back door. Derek's military instincts, honed during his time in the Marines before his security career, sparked to life. "Tyler, go to your room and lock the door. Don't come out until I tell you." As his son disappeared upstairs, Derek positioned himself behind the kitchen island. The back door handle turned slowly. Derek had installed top-grade locks on every entrance. Whoever this was had a key. The door opened, and a man stepped inside. Tall, athletic build, wearing expensive clothes that screamed corporate success. Derek recognized the type. Smooth talkers who thought money and charm could buy them anything, including other men's wives. "Hello, Derek." The man's voice carried an arrogant confidence that made Derek's jaw clench. "I'm Blake Morrison. I think it's time we had a conversation." Derek remained silent, studying his uninvited guest. Blake moved through Derek's kitchen like he owned it, opening the refrigerator and pulling out a beer. The casual violation of Derek's home sent rage coursing through his system. "Nice place you've got here," Blake continued, popping open the beer. "Though I have to say, Chloe deserves better. Much better. Get out of my house." Blake chuckled, taking a long sip. "See, that's where you're wrong. This isn't really your house anymore, is it? Chloe's been telling me all about your little marriage problems. The fighting, the distance, how you're never here for her or Tyler." Derek's hands slowly clenched into fists. "You have 10 seconds to leave before I throw you out." "I don't think so." Blake's demeanor shifted, the false friendliness dropping away. "You see, Derek, I know all about you. Your little security company that's barely breaking even, your gambling debts from that Vegas trip last year, how Chloe's been covering for your financial mistakes. She showed me the bank statements." The mention of the Vegas incident, a foolish weekend that had cost Derek $15,000 in poker losses, confirmed that Chloe had been sharing intimate details of their marriage. But Blake's knowledge went deeper than pillow talk. This felt orchestrated. "Chloe and I have been together for 8 months, Blake continued. "She's been planning to leave you for weeks. The only question is how messy this gets. For Tyler's sake, I hope you'll be reasonable." Derek's tactical mind was already analyzing the situation. Blake wasn't just some random affair. He'd done homework. The timing of Chloe's departure, the knowledge of Derek's vulnerabilities, even the key to the house suggested planning. This was an ambush disguised as a conversation. "What do you want?" Blake smiled, sensing victory. "Simple. You're going to make this easy for everyone. Chloe files for divorce. You don't contest it, and we all move on with our lives. You get weekend visitation with Tyler, and Chloe gets to be happy for once. And if I refuse, well, that would be unfortunate." Blake pulled out his phone, showing Derek a series of photos. Derek's stomach dropped as he recognized images of himself from the Vegas trip. Photos that could be easily misinterpreted to suggest activities far worse than gambling. "Chloe took these from your phone. Amazing what people will believe when the right story gets out. Could hurt your security business, couldn't it? Hard to trust a man who can't even secure his own family." Derek realized he was looking at a setup that had been months in the making. Chloe hadn't just strayed, she'd been recruited. Blake wasn't just her lover. He was her partner in a calculated destruction of Derek's life. "I can see you're starting to understand," Blake said. "This isn't some sordid affair that got out of hand. This is business. Chloe wants out, and I'm helping her get what she deserves. Half of everything you own, plus alimony and child support. Consider it the price of your failures as a husband. Derek's mind raced through possibilities. Blake's confidence suggested he felt protected, but everyone had vulnerabilities. Derek's years in security had taught him that the most arrogant opponents made the biggest mistakes. I need time to think about this. Of course you do. Blake finished the beer and tossed the empty bottle in Derek's sink. Take all the time you need. But understand, this train has already left the station. Chloe's attorney will be calling you Monday morning. Play along, and this stays civilized. Fight it, and things get messy for everyone. As Blake moved toward the door, he paused. Oh, and Derek? Chloe wanted me to tell you that Tyler really likes me. Kids adapt so quickly to new father figures, don't they? The threat was clear. Blake wasn't just taking Derek's wife. He was positioning himself to take Derek's son. After Blake left, Derek stood in his kitchen, processing what had just occurred. 20 years of marriage, 8 years of fatherhood, and 15 years of building his security business. All of it under attack by a man who'd walked into his house like he owned it. Derek pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts. His first instinct was still to call the police, but Blake's words echoed in his mind. The photos, the financial information, the calculated nature of the attack. Blake and Chloe had prepared for legal warfare. But Derek hadn't survived 2 tours in Afghanistan and built a successful security company by playing defense. If Blake wanted war, Derek would give him war. But it would be fought on Derek's terms, using Derek's rules. As Tyler's footsteps creaked upstairs, Derek made a decision that would change all their lives. He wouldn't be calling the police. He wouldn't be hiring a divorce attorney. He would be doing what he'd always done when facing a superior enemy. He would be gathering intelligence, identifying weaknesses, and preparing to strike when his opponents least expected it. Blake Morrison had made one critical error. He'd underestimated Derek Lawson, and Derek never forgot, and he never forgave. Chapter 2. The Architecture of Betrayal. Derek spent the weekend in careful observation mode, watching Chloe return from her sister's house with the practiced eye of a surveillance expert. She moved through their home with subtle changes, checking her phone more frequently, arranging items differently, speaking to Tyler with a forced enthusiasm that felt like rehearsal. Sunday evening, as Tyler watched cartoons, Derek found Chloe in their bedroom, packing a small bag. Going somewhere, he asked casually. Just an overnight with Lisa. She's having some issues with the wedding planning. Chloe's lie came smooth and natural, confirming she'd had plenty of practice. Derek nodded, filing away the information. Lisa, Chloe's sister, lived 3 hours away. If Chloe was lying about going there, she was likely staying local with Blake. Another piece of intelligence. How long has this been going on? Chloe's hands froze on her suitcase. What are you talking about? The lying. The planning. How long have you been working with Blake Morrison to destroy our marriage? The blood drained from Chloe's face. She turned slowly, and Derek saw something he'd never seen before. Cold calculation replacing the warm familiarity he'd known for 20 years. Blake told me you two had talked. Talk. Derek let the word hang between them. Is that what we're calling home invasion now? Chloe straightened, her defensive posture shifting to something more aggressive. Don't be dramatic, Derek. You knew this marriage was over. You've known it for years. What I knew was that my wife was distant. What I didn't know was that she was conducting psychological warfare against her own family. Psychological warfare? Chloe laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're the one who checked out of this marriage. You're the one who started gambling again. You're the one who chose your business over your family. Derek studied his wife's face, recognizing the careful construction of her arguments. These weren't spontaneous accusations. They were prepared talking points designed to justify what she'd already done. Tell me about Blake. Chloe's chin lifted defiantly. Blake is everything you're not. He's successful, he's present, and he doesn't treat me like an obligation. How did you meet him? Does it matter? Humor me. Chloe hesitated, and Derek caught the micro-expression that revealed she was calculating her answer. At the gym, we started talking, and things developed naturally. Another lie. Derek's security company had clients in the fitness industry, and he knew the dynamics of gym relationships. Blake's calculated approach to their affair suggested a more deliberate meeting. Which gym? Why are you interrogating me? Because my wife has been planning to destroy my life for 8 months, and I'm curious about the timeline. Chloe's face hardened. This isn't about destroying anything. This is about finally being honest about what our marriage became. And what did it become? A mistake I stayed in too long for Tyler's sake. The words hit Derek like a physical blow, not because they hurt, but because they revealed the depths of Chloe's deception. She was rewriting 20 years of history to justify 8 months of betrayal. Tyler knows, doesn't he, about Blake? Chloe's defensive mask slipped for just a moment. Tyler likes Blake. He's good with kids. Tyler was terrified yesterday. He thought Blake was here to hurt me. Blake would never hurt anyone. Tyler just misunderstood the situation. Derek realized Chloe was either lying to him or lying to herself. Blake's behavior the previous day had been deliberately intimidating, designed to establish dominance. But Chloe was choosing to see what she wanted to see. What does Blake do for work? He's in corporate consulting. He helps companies streamline their operations. The vague description raised red flags. In Derek's experience, people were either proud of their work or embarrassed by it. Blake's job description sounded like something designed to avoid scrutiny. Where did he go to school? Derek, stop. I'm just trying to understand the man who's going to be around my son. Blake went to Northwestern. He has an MBA from Kellogg. He's probably more educated than both of us combined. The defensive pride in Chloe's voice told Derek she was repeating information Blake had given her, likely without verification. Derek made a mental note to investigate Blake's credentials. How much does he make? More than enough to take care of us. Us. Chloe's face flushed. Tyler and me. When we're together. So you're planning to take Tyler away from me. I'm planning to give Tyler a stable home with a man who actually wants to be a father. The accusation stung because it contained enough truth to be effective. Derek had missed school events for work, had been distracted during family time, had prioritized building his business over being present. But Blake and Chloe were weaponizing normal marriage struggles to justify something far worse. And my business? What about it? Blake seems to know a lot about my finances. Information he could only have gotten from you. Chloe's silence confirmed Derek's suspicions. You gave him access to our bank accounts, didn't you? I showed him some statements. He was helping me understand our financial situation for the divorce. For 8 months, you've been sharing confidential information about my business with a stranger. Blake isn't a stranger, and your business affects my future too. Derek realized the scope of Chloe's betrayal extended far beyond adultery. She'd been conducting corporate espionage against her own husband, sharing client information and financial data with someone whose motives were entirely unclear. Who else knows about Blake? What do you mean? Your friends, your family, Tyler's teachers. Who else have you told about your boyfriend? Chloe's hesitation revealed she'd been more discreet than Derek expected. Lisa knows. A few close friends. But not your parents. My parents wouldn't understand. Translation. Chloe knew her parents would see through Blake's act. Derek filed that information away as well. What happens now? Blake's attorney will contact you Monday. We're hoping this can be settled quickly and quietly. Blake's attorney? He's handling the legal aspects for me. Derek felt another piece of the puzzle click into place. Blake wasn't just Chloe's lover. He was controlling the legal strategy. Most affairs were emotional. This one was transactional. Chloe, I need you to understand something. If you proceed with this, there's no going back. Ever. I don't want to go back, Derek. I want to go forward. Even if it means destroying Tyler's relationship with his father. Tyler will have a better father figure with Blake. The casual dismissal of Derek's paternal bond with his son crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Derek realized Chloe wasn't just choosing Blake over him. She was choosing a complete erasure of their family's history. After Chloe left for her overnight with Lisa, Derek sat in his study, surrounded by files from his security business. His company specialized in corporate threat assessment, but the skills were transferable. Blake Morrison had declared war on Derek's family, and Derek was going to treat it like any other security threat. He opened his laptop and began researching. Blake Morrison, corporate consultant, Northwestern graduate, Kellogg MBA. Derek's preliminary searches turned up surprisingly little online presence for someone in consulting. No LinkedIn profile, no company website, no business registrations in the state database. Derek's suspicions deepened. In his experience, people who claimed impressive credentials usually left digital footprints. Blake's absence from normal professional networks suggested either he was using a false identity or operating in markets that didn't advertise openly. Derek picked up his phone and dialed a number he hadn't called in years. Rodriguez Investigations. Carlos, it's Derek Lawson. Derek, man, it's been forever. What can I do for you? Carlos Rodriguez had been Derek's partner during his early days in security. Now, he ran a private investigation firm specializing in background checks and corporate intelligence. I need a deep dive on someone. Personal favor. Name it. Blake Morrison. Supposedly a corporate consultant with an MBA from Kellogg. I'll send you what little I have. Sounds routine. What's the timeline? Yesterday. Carlos chuckled. That urgent, huh? This business or personal? Personal. Very personal. I'll have something for you by Tuesday morning. Derek hung up and stared at his computer screen. Blake Morrison thought he was playing chess with an amateur. But Derek had spent years analyzing threats, identifying vulnerabilities, and neutralizing enemies. Blake was about to discover that Derek Lawson wasn't just Tyler's father or Chloe's husband. Derek Lawson was a predator, and Blake had just made himself prey. Chapter 3. The Gathering Storm. Tuesday morning brought two pieces of intelligence that changed everything. The first was a phone call from Blake's supposed attorney, a generic voicemail from a law office Derek had never heard of, requesting a meeting to discuss amicable resolution of marital issues. The second was Carlos Rodriguez's background report on Blake Morrison. Derek read the report twice, his jaw tightening with each revelation. Blake Morrison existed, but barely. His Northwestern education was real, but his Kellogg MBA was a fabrication. His corporate consulting business had no registered address, no tax filings, and no legitimate clients. What Blake did have was a pattern of targeting vulnerable marriages in affluent suburbs, a string of aliases, and a criminal record that had been carefully sealed. Most importantly, Blake Morrison wasn't his real name. Derek called Carlos back immediately. Tell me about the sealed records. Took some digging, but I found traces. Your boy Blake used to be Brad Michaels. Got arrested for fraud and extortion in Oregon about 5 years ago. Case was dismissed on a technicality, but the pattern was clear. He was running romance scams on married women, getting them to leave their husbands and liquidate assets. How many times? At least 3 that I could find. Maybe more. Guy's a professional homewrecker, Derek. This isn't passion, it's business. Derek felt a cold satisfaction settle over him. Chloe thought she'd found love. Instead, she'd found a predator who specialized in destroying families for profit. There's more, Carlos continued. I found traces of 2 other women who got involved with him after their divorces were finalized. Both ended up financially ruined and emotionally devastated. Blake takes everything and disappears. Current address? High-end apartment complex downtown. Lease is short-term, paid 6 months in advance. Guy travels light and leaves quick when things get complicated. Derek absorbed the information methodically. Blake wasn't just threatening Derek's marriage. He was executing a practiced formula for financial and emotional destruction. Chloe was a mark, not a lover. Carlos, I need everything you can find on his current operation. Bank accounts, credit reports, travel patterns, communication records. Everything. Derek, what are you planning? Justice. Be careful, man. Whatever this guy did to you, don't let it destroy your life too. Derek hung up and immediately called his attorney, Gregory Palmer. Greg had handled Derek's business contracts for years and was one of the few lawyers Derek trusted completely. Greg, I need an emergency consultation. What's the situation? My wife is having an affair with a professional con artist who's planning to take her for everything she's worth. I need to know my options for protecting my son and my assets. Come in this afternoon. And Derek? Don't do anything stupid before we talk. Derek's next call was to his business partner, Lieutenant Colonel James Mitchell, retired. Mitch had served with Derek in Afghanistan and now co-owned their security consulting firm. More importantly, Mitch had connections throughout law enforcement and military intelligence. Mitch, I need a favor. Personal, not business. Name it. Derek explained the situation in military terms. Enemy infiltration, compromised assets, imminent threat to operational security. Mitch listened without interruption. So you're dealing with a professional operator who's been surveilling your family for months, has compromised your spouse, and is now threatening your child's welfare. That's the tactical summary. What's your mission objective? Complete neutralization of the threat. Derek, be very careful how you define neutralization. This isn't Afghanistan. I know exactly where I am, Mitch. But Blake Morrison made a mistake. He threatened my son. That afternoon, Derek met with Greg Palmer in his law office. Greg reviewed Carlos's report with the clinical precision of a prosecutor examining evidence. Derek, this changes everything. If we can prove your wife was targeted by a professional con artist, we can potentially void any agreements she's made under duress or fraud. What about Tyler? Blake's criminal background would make him unsuitable for any custodial role. Even if Chloe proceeds with divorce, her association with Blake would work against her in custody proceedings. And my business assets? If we can demonstrate that Blake gained access to confidential business information through fraud, we can protect your company from any claims in the divorce. Derek felt the first stirrings of a plan forming. Blake had built his strategy on deception and manipulation. Derek would use Blake's own tactics against him. Greg, I need you to prepare for a war. Blake Morrison thinks he's playing against an amateur. He's about to learn otherwise. That evening, Derek was in his study when Tyler knocked on the door. Daddy, can I ask you something? Of course, buddy. Come in. Tyler climbed onto Derek's lap, something he hadn't done in months. Is Mommy's friend going to live with us? Derek felt his heart break a little. Tyler was 8 years old and trying to process his world falling apart. What do you think about Mommy's friend? He's scary. He talks to me like I'm stupid, and he makes Mommy act different. Different how? Like she's pretending to be someone else. And she gets mad when I talk about you. Derek realized Tyler was seeing through Blake's manipulation in ways Chloe couldn't. Children often had clearer instincts about predators than adults. Tyler, I need you to know something very important. No matter what happens with Mommy, you will always be my son. I will always protect you, and I will always love you. Are you and Mommy getting divorced? Derek chose his words carefully. Mommy has made some choices that hurt our family. But whatever happens between Mommy and me, nothing changes between you and me. Well, I have to live with Blake. Not if I can help it. Tyler hugged Derek tighter. Good. I don't like him. After Tyler went to bed, Derek sat in his study, staring at Carlos's report. Blake Morrison, or Brad Michaels, had built a career on exploiting the vulnerabilities of broken marriages. He identified targets, gained their trust, isolated them from their support systems, and then systematically stripped them of their assets and dignity. But Blake had made a critical error in targeting Derek's family. Derek wasn't a suburban husband who would roll over and accept destruction. Derek was a former Marine, a security expert, and a man who'd spent his career identifying and neutralizing threats. Blake wanted to play games? Derek would show him what real warfare looked like. Derek opened his laptop and began typing. It was time to introduce Blake Morrison to consequences he'd never imagined. Chapter 4. Setting the board. Derek's first move was patience. While Blake expected immediate panic and desperate attempts at reconciliation, Derek spent the week conducting surveillance and gathering intelligence. He watched Blake's routines, documented his patterns, and began building a comprehensive profile of his target. Blake lived in the Meridian Towers, a luxury apartment complex that catered to short-term corporate residents. Derek observed him leaving each morning at 8:30, returning around 6 p.m., with regular visits to upscale restaurants, expensive gyms, and shopping centers where he clearly wasn't shopping. On Thursday evening, Derek followed Blake to a coffee shop where he met with a blonde woman in her early 40s. Derek recognized the signs immediately. Anxious body language, frequent touching of her wedding ring, the desperate hope of someone believing she'd found salvation in a dangerous stranger. Blake was working another mark. Derek took photos from across the street, documenting Blake's meeting with what was clearly another married woman. Carlos had been right. Blake ran multiple operations simultaneously, maintaining a pipeline of vulnerable targets. Friday morning brought the breakthrough Derek had been waiting for. Carlos called with additional intelligence that made Derek smile for the first time in a week. Found something interesting about your boy Blake. He's got a partner. What kind of partner? Female, early 30s, goes by Amanda Price. She's the one who handles the initial approach and emotional manipulation. Blake comes in later as the knight in shining armor to rescue them from their terrible marriages. Current location? She's been staying at the Riverside Hotel downtown. Registered as a corporate consultant, same cover story Blake uses. Derek felt the pieces clicking together. Blake and Amanda were running a two-person operation, with Amanda handling reconnaissance and initial seduction while Blake closed the deals. Chloe hadn't stumbled into an affair. She'd been hunted. Carlos, I need everything you can find on Amanda Price. And I need it today. Already on it. I'll have a full workup by this afternoon. Derek's next call was to Mitch. I need you to run a security assessment on someone. Business or personal? Personal, but use business protocols. Full surveillance, communication intercepts, pattern analysis. Derek, you're walking into dangerous territory. Blake Morrison declared war on my family. I'm just returning the favor. What do you need from me? Technical support. Blake's been monitoring my communications and financial records through Chloe. I need to know everything he knows, and I need to control what he learns going forward. I can have a full electronic countermeasures sweep of your house and office done by tonight. We'll find every device, every vulnerability, every way they've been gathering intelligence. That afternoon, Carlos delivered Amanda Price's background report, and Derek understood the full scope of what his family was facing. Amanda Price was a professional manipulator with a psychology degree from a legitimate university and a criminal record that included fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy charges. She specialized in befriending lonely wives, building emotional connections, and then introducing them to Blake as the solution to their marital problems. Derek studied Amanda's photograph, attractive in a calculated way, with the kind of approachable prettiness that made people trust her immediately. He bet everything he owned that Amanda had been the one to first approach Chloe, probably at the gym or grocery store, striking up casual conversations that slowly built into friendship and then confidential confessions. That evening, Mitch's team swept Derek's house and office with military-grade detection equipment. They found 3 listening devices, one in Derek's home office, one in the master bedroom, and one in his car. They also discovered that Blake had gained access to Derek's email accounts through Chloe's computer. This is a sophisticated operation, Mitch reported. Whoever placed these devices knew what they were doing. This isn't amateur hour. Derek examined the listening devices with professional appreciation. Blake and Amanda weren't just romance scammers. They were running intelligence operations with the precision of corporate espionage. How long do you think they've been listening? Based on the battery levels and installation methods, I'd say at least 4 months, maybe longer. Derek realized Blake and Amanda had been recording his private conversations, monitoring his business activities, and tracking his personal habits for months before Blake ever confronted him. They'd built a complete intelligence file on Derek's vulnerabilities, routines, and potential responses. But now Derek knew they were listening, which meant he could control what they heard. Mitch, leave the devices in place. But I want you to install counter-surveillance equipment that lets us monitor what they're monitoring. You want to feed them disinformation? I want to control the battlefield. Saturday evening, Derek was ready to begin his counteroffensive. He called Greg Palmer from a secure phone. Greg, I need you to start making inquiries about Blake Morrison with the State Bar Association. Very quiet inquiries about whether the law firm representing him is legitimate. What am I looking for? I suspect Blake's attorney is either Amanda Price or Blake himself operating under another false identity. If we can prove legal fraud, we can have any documents they've prepared declared invalid. That would be a federal crime. Yes, it would. Derek's next call was to Carlos. I need you to start monitoring Blake's communications. Phone records, internet activity, financial transactions. Everything. Derek, That's getting into surveillance territory that could cause us both legal problems. Carlos, Blake Morrison has been conducting illegal surveillance on my family for months. He's threatened my child, stolen my business information, and is planning to destroy my life for profit. I'm not interested in playing by rules he ignores. All right, but this stays between us. And if things go sideways, you never heard this from me. Sunday morning, Derek implemented his first tactical deception. He sat in his home office, knowing Blake was listening, and made a phone call to a fictional attorney. Yes, I understand. So you're saying if I agree to an uncontested divorce and don't fight the asset division, we can have this settled within 30 days? And you think that's my best option given the evidence they claim to have? All right, I'll consider it. But I want to meet with Blake Morrison directly before I make any final decisions. Derek hung up, confident that Blake was hearing exactly what Derek wanted him to hear, that Derek was broken, defeated, and ready to surrender. Blake's arrogance would make him believe his intimidation tactics had worked. In reality, Derek was preparing for the most important battle of his life. Blake Morrison thought he was hunting a suburban husband. Instead, he'd stumbled into the crosshairs of a former Marine who specialized in neutralizing threats to his family. Blake had made two critical errors. First, he'd underestimated Derek's capabilities. Second, he'd threatened Tyler. Derek never forgave threats to his son, and Derek never fought fair when his family was at stake. Chapter 5. The Trap Springs. Monday morning, Derek received the call he'd been expecting. Blake's supposed attorney, Dr. Patricia Williams, requested a meeting to discuss amicable resolution terms. Derek agreed to meet Wednesday afternoon, giving himself time to prepare the trap he'd been designing. Carlos called Tuesday with explosive intelligence. Derek, you're not going to believe this. Blake Morrison and Amanda Price have been running this scam for 3 years, but they're not the top of the food chain. What do you mean? There's a third partner, guy named Vincent Cross. He's the one who identifies targets and provides the operational funding. Blake and Amanda are field operatives. Derek felt his blood chill. How many families have they destroyed? At least 12 that I can't confirm. Maybe more. Vincent Cross specializes in targeting middle-class families with substantial assets and vulnerable marriages. He provides Blake and Amanda with psychological profiles, financial analysis, and operational support. Where is Cross? That's the interesting part. He operates out of a corporate office downtown, registered as a family counseling and mediation service. Completely legitimate on the surface, but I think it's a front for targeting potential marks. Derek realized his family hadn't just stumbled into an affair. They'd been selected by a criminal organization that specialized in destroying marriages for profit. Chloe wasn't Blake's lover. She was their victim. But her betrayal of Derek and Tyler meant she'd become their accomplice. Carlos, I need current surveillance on all three of them. Locations, communications, meeting schedules. Everything. Derek, what are you planning? I'm planning to end their business permanently. Wednesday afternoon, Derek arrived at the law offices of Williams & Associates for his meeting with Blake's attorney. The building was legitimate, but Derek's research had revealed that Dr. Patricia Williams was actually Amanda Price using another identity. Derek walked into the meeting knowing he was facing one of Blake's criminal partners. Mr. Lawson, thank you for coming. Amanda, posing as Patricia Williams, wore an expensive suit and projected the confidence of someone accustomed to intimidating suburban husbands. I hope we can resolve this situation amicably. Derek sat across from her, studying her face. She was younger than her photo suggested, with sharp intelligence behind her professional facade. This was the woman who'd befriended his wife, gained her trust, and then manipulated her into betraying her family. What exactly are you proposing? Your wife has made it clear that the marriage is irretrievably broken. Mr. Morrison has graciously offered to help facilitate a clean separation that protects everyone's interests, especially Tyler's. Derek almost smiled. Amanda was delivering lines she'd clearly practiced on other husbands. But Derek wasn't other husbands. And Mr. Morrison's interest in facilitating my divorce would be what? Exactly. Amanda's confident demeanor flickered slightly. Mr. Morrison cares about your wife's happiness. For 8 months, according to Chloe. Love doesn't follow convenient timelines, Mr. Lawson. No, but fraud investigations do. Amanda's face went carefully blank. I'm not sure what you mean. Derek pulled out a folder and placed it on the table between them. Amanda Price, also known as Patricia Williams, also known as Dr. Sarah Chun. Psychology degree from Ohio State. Criminal record in 3 states. Currently operating an illegal romance scam with Blake Morrison, a.k.a. Brad Michaels, under the operational control of Vincent Cross. Amanda's professional mask completely dissolved. Derek saw fear, calculation, and something that looked like respect flash across her features. You've been busy. I'm a security consultant, Amanda. This is what I do for a living. What do you want? I want you and Blake to disappear. Tonight, I want you to leave Chloe alone, leave Tyler alone, and find another city to operate in. Amanda leaned back in her chair, studying Derek with new appreciation. And if we refuse? Derek opened the folder and showed her photographs of Blake meeting with other married women, financial records documenting the scam operation, and communication intercepts proving conspiracy to commit fraud. Then I call the FBI. Romance scams that cross state lines are federal crimes. Wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit fraud. You're looking at 20 years minimum. Each. You don't have enough evidence for a conviction. I don't need a conviction. I just need enough evidence to destroy your operation and make you too expensive to protect. Vincent Cross didn't build his business to support partners who become federal targets. Amanda was quiet for a long moment, clearly calculating her options. Blake won't walk away. He's invested too much in this operation. Blake doesn't get a choice. Neither do you. And Chloe. Derek's expression hardened. Chloe made her choice when she decided to betray her family. She'll live with the consequences. She really loves him, you know. This wasn't just manipulation. Amanda, you're a professional liar. You wouldn't recognize love if it came with documentation. Amanda smiled despite herself. You're not what we expected. No, I'm not. I'm what Blake gets for targeting the wrong family. Derek stood to leave, then turned back. Amanda, give Blake a message for me. Tell him that if he ever comes near my son again, the FBI will be the least of his problems. After Derek left, Amanda sat alone in the conference room, processing what had just occurred. In 3 years of operations, no mark had ever turned the tables on them. Blake's confidence that Derek was a broken suburban husband had blinded them to the reality that Derek Lawson was a professional threat assessment expert who just turned their own tactics against them. Amanda pulled out her phone and called Blake. We have a problem. What kind of problem? The kind that ends with federal prison if we don't disappear tonight. Amanda, what the hell are you talking about? Derek Lawson just handed me a file that documents our entire operation. Names, addresses, financial records, communication intercepts. Everything. Blake was quiet for a moment. That's impossible. Blake, he knows about Vincent. He knows about our other targets. He knows everything. Then we accelerate the timeline. Chloe files for divorce tomorrow, and we liquidate the assets before Derek can freeze them. Blake, you're not listening. Derek Lawson isn't some suburban husband we can intimidate. He's a former Marine who runs a security company. We're not hunting him. He's hunting us. No one threatens my operations. Blake, this isn't about your ego. This is about survival. Derek Lawson just declared war on us, and we don't have the resources to fight someone who knows how to fight back. But Blake had already hung up. Amanda stared at her phone, realizing that Blake's arrogance was about to destroy everything they'd built. And Derek Lawson was just getting started. Chapter 6. Escalation. Blake's response to Derek's ultimatum came Thursday morning in the form of a text message to Chloe. Emergency. Need to see you immediately. Don't tell Derek. Derek, monitoring all communications through the surveillance equipment Mitch had installed, smiled grimly. Blake was reacting emotionally instead of tactically, exactly what Derek had hoped for. Derek called Carlos. Blake's about to make a mistake. I need real-time surveillance on Chloe's meeting with him. Already on it. My team is in position. Derek's next call was to Greg Palmer. Greg, I need you to file emergency motions for protective custody of Tyler and freezing of all marital assets. Use Blake's criminal background as justification. Derek, that's aggressive. Are you sure you want to escalate this quickly? Blake just called an emergency meeting with my wife after I told his partner to leave town. He's not walking away. He's doubling down. Derek's phone buzzed with a text from Tyler's school. Tyler Lawson has been picked up early by his mother for a family emergency. Derek's blood went cold. Blake wasn't just doubling down. He was taking Tyler. Derek immediately called Chloe's phone. When she answered, he could hear Tyler crying in the background. "Chloe, were you taking Tyler?" "Derek, we need to talk. Blake thinks you might try to interfere with the divorce proceedings." "Where are you?" "Somewhere safe. Blake says you've been making threats." Derek's tactical mind immediately shifted into crisis mode. Blake had convinced Chloe to take Tyler as leverage, either to force Derek's compliance or to establish facts on the ground for custody proceedings. "Chloe, listen to me very carefully. Blake Morrison is a professional criminal who specializes in destroying families for money. Amanda Price, his partner, has been lying to you for months." "Derek, stop. Blake told me you might try something like this." "Chloe, I can prove everything I'm telling you. Blake's real name is Brad Michaels. He's been arrested for fraud and extortion. He's running a scam operation with Amanda and someone named Vincent Cross." "Derek, you're scaring me. You should be scared, but not of me." Derek heard Blake's voice in the background, telling Chloe to hang up. "Chloe, please, just ask Blake one question. Ask him about Vincent Cross." The line went dead. Derek immediately called Mitch. "They've taken Tyler. I need a tactical response team, and I need it now." "Derek, slow down. What's the situation?" "Blake Morrison has convinced my wife to take my son from school. They're using Tyler as leverage to force my compliance with their demands." "That's kidnapping." "Yes, it is. And I'm not waiting for the legal system to resolve this." "Derek, think carefully about what you're planning. If you respond with force, you could lose Tyler permanently. If I don't respond with force, I might lose Tyler permanently anyway." Derek's phone rang. "Carlos." "Derek, we have a problem. Blake didn't just take your wife and son. He's taken them to Vincent Cross's facility downtown." "What kind of facility?" "It's registered as a family counseling center, but my surveillance shows it's set up like a safe house. Multiple exits, surveillance equipment, communication jammers. This is an amateur hour." Derek realized Blake wasn't just panicking. He was implementing a prepared contingency plan. Vincent Cross's operation was larger and more sophisticated than Derek had imagined. "Carlos, I need the building blueprints, security assessment, and real-time surveillance on all entrances." "Derek, what are you planning?" "I'm planning to get my son back." Derek's next call was to Greg Palmer. "Greg, file emergency custody motions immediately. Cite kidnapping, endangerment, and association with known criminals." "Derek, where are you?" "I'm going to get Tyler." "Derek, don't do anything that will hurt your custody case." "Greg, if I don't get Tyler back today, there won't be a custody case." Derek hung up and called Mitch. "I need a full tactical assessment of Vincent Cross's facility. Treat it as a hostage rescue operation." "Derek, you can't conduct a military operation in downtown in broad daylight." "Watch me." But before Derek could implement any rescue plan, his phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello, Mr. Lawson. This is Vincent Cross." Derek felt his blood pressure spike. The voice was calm, professional, and completely confident. "Where's my son? Tyler is safe and comfortable. He's currently enjoying video games and pizza while the adults discuss the future. If you hurt him..." "Mr. Lawson, I have no interest in hurting anyone. I'm a businessman. I solve problems for people who find themselves in impossible situations. What do you want?" "I want you to understand the reality of your position. Your wife has decided to end her marriage to you. My associates have been helping her plan for a future that doesn't include you. This can proceed smoothly, or it can become complicated." "It's already complicated." "No, Mr. Lawson. Complicated would be Tyler spending the next several years shuttling between parents who hate each other, wondering why his family fell apart. Complicated would be expensive legal battles that destroy everyone's finances and emotional well-being." Derek realized Vincent Cross was far more dangerous than Blake or Amanda. Where they were emotional manipulators, Cross was a cold strategist who understood exactly how to apply pressure. "What are you proposing?" "A clean resolution. You agree to an uncontested divorce with reasonable terms. Tyler maintains a relationship with both parents. Everyone moves forward with their lives. And if I refuse, then things become complicated for everyone. Your business comes under scrutiny for various regulatory violations that Amanda has discovered. Your finances become public record. Your personal life becomes a matter of legal proceedings that will drag on for years. Derek understood the threat. Cross wasn't just offering a deal. He was threatening total destruction if Derek refused to comply. I need to think about this. Of course. But Mr. Lawson, Tyler has school tomorrow. It would be unfortunate if his routine were disrupted because of adult disagreements. The line went dead. Derek sat in his car, processing what had just occurred. Vincent Cross had escalated the situation beyond a simple romance scam. He was holding Tyler hostage to force Derek's compliance with demands that would strip Derek of everything he'd built. But Cross had made one critical error. He'd assumed Derek would prioritize avoiding confrontation over protecting his son. Derek called Mitch back. Change of plans. I need you to contact Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Kim at Joint Base McCord. Tell her Derek Lawson needs a consultation on domestic terrorism threats involving child endangerment. Derek, you're talking about bringing military resources into a civilian situation. Vincent Cross just declared war on my family. I'm going to show him what war actually looks like. Derek had spent his career neutralizing threats to security. Vincent Cross was about to learn that threatening Derek's son was the most dangerous mistake he could have made. Chapter 7. The Hunter's Gambit. Derek's military training had taught him that the most dangerous moment in any conflict was when the enemy believed they held all the advantages. Vincent Cross was about to learn that confidence could be a fatal weakness. Derek spent Thursday night implementing a plan that would have impressed his former commanding officers. While Cross expected Derek to spend the night agonizing over impossible choices, Derek was instead coordinating with people Cross had never imagined existed. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Kim arrived at Derek's house at 0200 hours Friday morning, accompanied by 2 specialists from the Military Criminal Investigative Service. Sarah had served with Derek in Afghanistan and understood exactly what was at stake. Derek explained the situation. Derek laid out the intelligence files Carlos had compiled, the surveillance evidence Mitch had gathered, and the timeline of Cross's operation against his family. So you're dealing with an organized criminal enterprise that specializes in family destruction for profit. They've taken your son as leverage, and they're threatening to destroy your business if you don't comply with their demands. That's the tactical summary. Sarah studied the photographs of Cross's facility. This isn't a civilian matter anymore. Child endangerment by organized criminals crosses into federal jurisdiction. That's what I was hoping you'd say. One of Sarah's specialists, Agent Martinez, looked up from his laptop. Derek, Cross's operation shows patterns consistent with organized crime. The systematic targeting of families, the use of psychological manipulation, the financial exploitation. This looks like human trafficking disguised as romance scams. Derek felt pieces clicking together. They're not just destroying marriages for money. They're harvesting families for systematic exploitation. Exactly. And that makes Tyler's situation a federal emergency. Sarah stood up. Derek, I'm going to make some calls. By 0800 hours, Cross is going to find himself facing federal agencies he didn't know existed. While Sarah coordinated with federal authorities, Derek implemented the second phase of his plan. He called Carlos. Carlos, I need you to execute Operation Scorched Earth. Derek, are you sure? Once we do this, there's no going back. They took my son. There's already no going back. Operation Scorched Earth was Derek's nuclear option. The simultaneous release of every piece of evidence Carlos had gathered to law enforcement agencies, news media, and professional networks in 3 states. Blake, Amanda, and Cross would wake up Friday morning to find their criminal enterprise exposed to everyone who mattered. But Derek's most important call was to someone Cross would never expect. Mrs. Morrison? This is Derek Lawson. I need to speak with you about your son, Blake. The elderly woman's voice was confused and concerned. I'm sorry. Who did you say you were? I'm calling about your son, Brad. The one you reported missing 5 years ago when he disappeared after being arrested in Oregon. The silence on the other end of the line told Derek everything he needed to know. Oh my God, you found him. Mrs. Morrison. Brad has been operating under the name Blake Morrison. He's involved in criminal activities that have put my 8-year-old son in danger. I need your help. Derek spent the next hour explaining the situation to Blake's mother, a woman who'd been grieving her son's disappearance for 5 years. By the end of the conversation, she was crying and demanding to speak with Brad immediately. Mrs. Morrison, I'm going to give you the address where Brad is holding my son. I need you to go there and demand to see him. He won't be able to refuse his mother. Derek's psychological warfare was just beginning. Friday morning at 0700 hours, Derek's phone rang. Vincent Cross, no longer sounding confident. Mr. Lawson, we seem to have some complications this morning. What kind of complications? Federal agents are asking questions about my business. Someone has been spreading false information about my associates. That's unfortunate. Mr. Lawson, I think there's been a misunderstanding about the nature of our arrangement. Derek almost smiled. Cross was discovering that Derek wasn't a suburban husband he could intimidate. Derek was a former military intelligence officer who understood how to wage total war. The only misunderstanding, Cross, is your assumption that I would negotiate with someone who threatens my son. Your son is perfectly safe. My son is being held against his will by criminals. That's not safe. That's kidnapping. Mr. Lawson, I think we need to meet in person to resolve the situation. We're not meeting anywhere. You're going to release Tyler immediately, or this situation gets much worse for you. I don't think you understand your position. Cross, you're about to discover that you don't understand mine. Derek hung up and immediately called Carlos. Phase 2 is complete. Every law enforcement agency in 3 states now has complete files on Cross's operation. The FBI is issuing warrants as we speak. Derek's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Blake. Meet me at Riverside Park in 1 hour. Come alone. Bring proof that you've called off the federal investigation. Derek forwarded the message to Sarah Kim and added his own text. The fish is taking the bait. Derek arrived at Riverside Park to find Blake waiting by the river, looking like a man whose world was collapsing. Blake's usual arrogance had been replaced by something approaching panic. Derek, we need to end this. Where's Tyler? Tyler is safe, but this situation has gotten out of hand. Derek studied Blake's face and realized the man was genuinely frightened. The federal investigation had shattered Blake's confidence and forced him to confront the reality that Derek wasn't a victim he could manipulate. Blake, you made a fundamental error. You assumed I was like your other targets. What do you want? I want my son back. I want you and Amanda to disappear forever. And I want Cross to understand that threatening my family was the worst decision he ever made. Derek, you don't understand what you're dealing with. Cross isn't just some con artist. He has connections, resources, protection. Blake, Cross is about to discover that I have better connections. Derek's phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Federal raid's beginning now. Blake's phone immediately started ringing. He looked at the screen and his face went white. Cross is being arrested, Derek said. Amanda is being arrested. Their financial accounts are being frozen. Their safe house is being raided. And your mother is waiting at Cross's facility to see her son, Brad. Blake looked like he'd been physically struck. My mother. She's been worried about you for 5 years, Brad. She thought you were dead. Derek watched Blake's psychological defenses crumble as the reality of his situation became clear. The federal investigation was destroying his criminal operation, but Derek's psychological warfare was destroying Blake himself. Derek, please. I just need to get Tyler and leave. I don't want anything else. Too late for that. You involved my son in your criminal enterprise. You threatened my family. You tried to destroy my life for profit. I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. Blake, you're going to prison. The question is how long you spend there. Derek's phone rang. Sarah Kim. Derek, we have Tyler. He's safe and unharmed. Cross and Amanda are in federal custody. Blake Morrison is the only one still outstanding. Derek looked at Blake, who'd heard enough of the conversation to understand his situation. Blake, you have 2 choices. You can run and spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder for federal agents. Or you can surrender and hope for a plea deal that gets you out of prison before you're too old to matter. Blake stood up slowly, his hands shaking. Derek, I never meant for it to go this far. Yes, you did. You planned every aspect of this operation. You targeted my wife, manipulated my son, and threatened my family. You meant for it to go exactly this far. Derek stood up and looked Blake in the eyes. But you made one mistake. You assumed I would let you win. Derek pulled out his phone and called 911. I'd like to report the location of Blake Morrison, a federal fugitive wanted for organized crime and child endangerment. As Derek gave the dispatcher their location, Blake Morrison, Brad Michaels, sat down on the park bench and put his head in his hands. His criminal career was over, his operation was destroyed, and his mother was about to learn what her missing son had become. Derek walked away without looking back. Tyler was safe, Cross was neutralized, and Blake was finished. But Derek wasn't done yet. Chloe still had to face the consequences of her choices. Chapter 8. The Unraveling. Derek found Tyler at the federal building Friday afternoon, surrounded by FBI agents and child psychologists who were ensuring he hadn't been traumatized by his ordeal. When Tyler saw Derek, he ran into his father's arms with relief that broke Derek's heart. Daddy, the bad man is gone. Yes, buddy, the bad man is gone forever. Agent Martinez briefed Derek on Tyler's condition. He's remarkably resilient. Blake and Cross treated him well during the time he was with them, probably because they needed him as leverage. But Derek, Tyler understood more about what was happening than they realized. What do you mean? Tyler told us that Blake was lying to his mother about you. Tyler tried to warn Chloe that Blake was dangerous, but she wouldn't listen. Derek felt another piece of his marriage die. Chloe had chosen to believe Blake over her own son. Where's Chloe now? She's being interviewed by federal agents. She's not under arrest, but she's definitely a person of interest in a federal investigation. Derek took Tyler home, where Mitch was waiting with a full security team. Derek's house was now under federal protection while the investigation continued, but Derek knew the real danger was over. Cross's organization was destroyed, Blake was in custody, and Amanda was cooperating with federal prosecutors in exchange for a reduced sentence. Saturday morning, Chloe came home. Derek was in his study when she walked in, looking like someone who'd aged years in a single week. Her confidence was gone, replaced by confusion and something that might have been shame. Derek, we need to talk. Do we? Chloe sat down across from Derek's desk, her hands shaking slightly. The FBI told me everything. About Blake's real name, about his criminal record, about the organization. And I didn't know. Derek, I swear to you, I had no idea. Derek studied his wife's face and realized she was telling the truth. Chloe had been a victim of Blake's manipulation, but that didn't change what she'd done to her family. Chloe, when did you first meet Amanda? About a year ago, at the gym. She was so friendly, so easy to talk to. We became friends, and she encouraged you to talk about our marriage problems. Yes, she was such a good listener. She understood what I was going through. Derek realized Amanda had been cultivating Chloe for months before Blake ever appeared, building emotional dependence and identifying vulnerabilities that Blake could exploit. When did Amanda introduce you to Blake? About 8 months ago. She said she had a friend who'd gone through a similar divorce, someone who could help me understand my options. And you never questioned why a stranger was so interested in helping you leave your husband? Chloe's face flushed. Derek, I was unhappy. Our marriage was struggling, and here was someone who seemed to genuinely care about my feelings. So you share our private information with him. Our financial records, Tyler's school information, my business details. Blake said he needed to understand our situation to help me protect myself in a divorce. Chloe, you gave classified information about my security business to a criminal organization. The full scope of Chloe's betrayal was finally becoming clear to her. She compromised not just their marriage, but Derek's entire livelihood. Derek, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am genuinely sorry. Sorry for which part? The affair? The lies? Putting Tyler in danger? Or destroying my business? Chloe started crying. All of it. I made terrible mistakes. Derek felt nothing as he watched his wife cry. 8 months of lies, manipulation, and betrayal had killed whatever love he'd once felt for her. Chloe, Tyler tried to warn you about Blake. Your own son told you Blake was dangerous, and you chose to believe a criminal over your child. Tyler didn't understand. Tyler understood perfectly. Blake scared him. Blake threatened him. And you ignored your son's instincts because you were more interested in your fantasy than your family. Chloe wiped her eyes and looked at Derek with desperate hope. Derek, can we fix this? Can we go to counseling, work through this together? Derek's response was immediate and final. No. Derek, please. I know I made mistakes, but I was manipulated. I was a victim too. Chloe, you stopped being a victim the moment you chose Blake over Tyler. You stopped being my wife the moment you decided to destroy our family for a con artist. Derek, I love you. I never stopped loving you. You don't love me, Chloe. You never did. If you had loved me, you wouldn't have been vulnerable to Blake's manipulation. If you had loved Tyler, you wouldn't have put him in danger. Derek stood up and walked to his filing cabinet. He pulled out papers Greg Palmer had prepared and handed them to Chloe. Divorce papers. Already filed. You can contest them if you want, but the FBI investigation has documented your cooperation with a criminal organization. Your chances of getting custody or significant assets are essentially zero. Chloe stared at the papers in shock. Derek, you can't take Tyler away from me. I'm not taking Tyler away from you. You gave him away when you chose Blake Morrison over your son's welfare. The courts will give me visitation rights. Maybe, but Tyler will decide whether he wants to see you. And right now, Tyler is angry that his mother chose a criminal over her family. Derek moved toward the door, then turned back. Chloe, you need to understand something. There is no scenario where we reconcile. There is no future where I forgive you. You betrayed our family, endangered our son, and destroyed everything we built together. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. And choices have consequences. Derek, please don't do this. I'm not doing anything. You did this. 8 months ago, you decided our marriage was over. Today, I'm just making it official. Derek left Chloe sitting in his study, staring at divorce papers that would end 20 years of marriage. He found Tyler in the living room, playing video games with forced concentration. Tyler, Mom and I are getting divorced. Do you understand what that means? Tyler paused his game and looked at Derek with eyes that seemed too old for an 8-year-old. It means she chose Blake over us. Derek's heart broke at his son's mature understanding of an adult betrayal. Tyler, I need you to know that none of this is your fault. Mom made bad choices, but that doesn't mean she doesn't love you. If she loved me, she wouldn't have scared me with Blake. Derek realized Tyler had already processed his mother's betrayal and reached his own conclusions. Tyler understood that love required protection, loyalty, and sacrifice, things Chloe had failed to provide. Tyler, do you want to see Mom sometimes? Tyler considered the question seriously. Maybe when I'm older. Well, I can understand why she hurt us. Derek hugged his son, understanding that Tyler had inherited Derek's unforgiving nature. Some betrayals were too fundamental to overlook, too destructive to forgive. Sunday morning, Chloe moved out of their house. Derek watched from his study window as she loaded her belongings into a rental car, occasionally stopping to cry. Tyler stood beside Derek, also watching silently. Is she ever coming back? Tyler asked. Not to live here. This is our home now. Good, Tyler said simply. Derek realized his son had already moved on. Tyler understood that families were built on trust, loyalty, and protection. Chloe had violated all three, and Tyler had written her off with the ruthless clarity of childhood innocence. As Chloe's car disappeared down their street, Derek felt a chapter of his life closing. The marriage was over, the threats were neutralized, and Tyler was safe. But Derek's revenge was not complete. Cross, Blake, and Amanda would face federal prison, but Chloe still needed to understand the full consequences of her choices. Derek had one final lesson to teach his ex-wife about the price of betrayal. Chapter 9. No Forgiveness. 6 months later, Derek sat in his attorney's office reviewing the final divorce settlement. The federal investigation had resulted in plea bargains for Blake and Amanda, 20-year sentences for Cross, and complete vindication for Derek's actions. His security business had actually grown stronger as word spread about how he neutralized a sophisticated criminal threat to his family. Derek, Chloe's attorney is asking for one final meeting, Greg Palmer said. She wants to discuss the possibility of joint custody. What did you tell them? I told them the custody arrangement was final. Tyler has made his preferences clear. Derek smiled grimly. Tyler had indeed made his preferences clear. In 6 months, Tyler had refused every attempt at reconciliation with his mother. Chloe's supervised visitation rights remained unused because Tyler simply refused to see her. Sir, there's one more thing, Greg continued. Chloe's financial situation has become quite difficult. The divorce settlement left her with minimal assets, and she's struggling to find employment. Not my problem. Derek, I know you feel betrayed, but Chloe is still Tyler's mother. Derek's expression hardened. Greg, Chloe chose to destroy our family for a criminal. She endangered our son and betrayed everything we built together. The fact that she's suffering consequences doesn't create obligations for me. Derek left Greg's office and drove to Tyler's school, where he had a standing appointment to pick up his son every Friday. Tyler was waiting with his backpack and a report card that showed straight A's, something that had become routine since Chloe left. How was school today? Good. Mrs. Patterson said Mom called the school again. Derek felt his jaw tighten. What did she want? She wanted to know if I would talk to her. Mrs. Patterson told her I had to make that choice myself. And what did you tell Mrs. Patterson? Tyler was quiet for a moment. I told her that Mom chose Blake over us. I don't want to talk to people who hurt our family. Derek realized Tyler had inherited his unforgiving nature completely. At 8 years old, Tyler understood that some betrayals were unforgivable. Tyler, you know Mom wasn't trying to hurt us, right? She made bad choices, but she wasn't trying to be mean. Dad, Blake scared me. He threatened you. Mom knew that, and she chose him anyway. That's not making bad choices. That's being mean. Derek was struck by his son's clarity. Tyler had reduced the complex psychology of betrayal to its essential truth. Chloe had chosen to harm her family rather than protect it. That evening, Derek was cooking dinner when his doorbell rang. He opened it to find Chloe standing on his porch, looking desperate and disheveled. Derek, please. I need to talk to Tyler. Tyler doesn't want to see you. He's 8 years old. He doesn't understand what happened. Tyler understands perfectly. You chose Blake Morrison over your family. Tyler has decided he doesn't forgive you. Chloe started crying. Derek, I've lost everything. My job, my apartment, my friends. Everyone knows what happened. I can't even get hired at retail stores because the background checks reveal my involvement with Blake's operation. Derek felt no sympathy. That's what happens when you cooperate with criminals. I was manipulated. The FBI said I was a victim. The FBI said you were manipulated, not that you were blameless. You chose to betray your family, even after Tyler warned you Blake was dangerous. Derek, I'm Tyler's mother. Doesn't that mean anything? Being Tyler's mother meant something when you acted like Tyler's mother. When you stopped protecting him and started endangering him, you stopped being his mother in any way that matters. Tyler appeared behind Derek, having heard the conversation. Mom, Tyler, sweetie, I've missed you so much. Tyler stared at his mother with the cold assessment of someone much older. Why did you choose Blake over us? Tyler, I didn't choose Blake over you. I made mistakes, but I always loved you. If you loved me, you wouldn't have brought the scary man around. You wouldn't have let him threaten Dad. Chloe knelt down, trying to get to Tyler's eye level. Tyler, Blake lied to me. I didn't know he was dangerous. I told you he was dangerous. You didn't believe me. The simple truth of Tyler's statement hit Chloe like a physical blow. Her 8-year-old son had tried to protect their family, and she'd ignored his warnings in favor of a criminal's lies. Tyler, please. Can't we try to be a family again? Tyler looked at his mother with something approaching pity. Mom, we're not a family anymore. You broke our family when you chose Blake. Tyler, families can be fixed. Dad says some things can't be fixed. He says some people don't deserve forgiveness. Chloe looked up at Derek with desperate anger. Derek, he's a child. You're teaching him to hate his mother. I'm teaching him that actions have consequences. You taught him that betrayal destroys families. Derek, please. I'll do anything to make this right. Derek's response was final and brutal. Chloe, there is nothing you could do to make this right. You betrayed your family, endangered your son, and destroyed everything we built together. Tyler has decided he doesn't want a relationship with someone who hurt his family. I support his decision. Tyler, please. Mom, I don't want to see you anymore. You scared me, and you hurt Dad. I don't forgive people who hurt my family. Derek watched his 8-year-old son deliver a verdict that would shape the rest of Chloe's life. Tyler had learned Derek's most important lesson. Some betrayals were unforgivable. Chloe stood up slowly, understanding that she'd lost her son forever. Derek, you've turned him against me. Chloe, you turned him against yourself. Tyler tried to warn you about Blake, and you ignored him. Tyler asked you to protect our family, and you chose to destroy it instead. Tyler doesn't hate you. He just doesn't trust you. And trust, once broken completely, can never be repaired. Derek stepped back and began closing the door. Chloe, don't come back here. Tyler has made his choice, and I will always support Tyler's choices when it comes to protecting himself from people who hurt him. Derek, you can't do this. I'm not doing anything. You did this 8 months ago when you chose Blake Morrison over your family. Derek closed the door and locked it. Through the window, he watched Chloe stand on his porch crying for several minutes before finally walking away. Tyler looked up at Derek. Is she ever coming back? Not unless you want her to. I don't. Derek hugged his son, understanding that Tyler had learned the most important lesson of all. Loyalty was earned, trust was precious, and betrayal was unforgivable. 6 months later, Derek received a letter from Chloe's attorney informing him that Chloe was moving to another state to start over. She was formally relinquishing all parental rights and would not be seeking any further contact with Tyler. Derek showed the letter to Tyler, who is now 9 and even more resolute in his decision. Do you want to say goodbye to Mom before she leaves? Tyler considered the question seriously. No, she already said goodbye when she chose Blake. Derek realized his son had inherited more than just his unforgiving nature. Tyler had inherited his strategic mind and his absolute clarity about right and wrong. That evening, Derek and Tyler sat on their porch, watching the sunset. Tyler was working on homework while Derek reviewed security contracts for his expanding business. Dad, yes. Are you sad that Mom left? Derek considered how to answer honestly. I'm sad that our family was broken, but I'm not sad that the person who broke it is gone. Me too. Derek looked at his son, resilient, brilliant, and absolutely loyal, and realized they'd both survived something that could have destroyed them. Blake Morrison, Amanda Price, and Vincent Cross were in federal prison. Chloe was gone forever, and Derek and Tyler were building a new life based on trust, loyalty, and the understanding that some things were more important than forgiveness. Derek had learned that mercy was a luxury he couldn't afford when his family was threatened. Tyler had learned that love required protection, and protection sometimes required cutting away what was dangerous. Neither of them would ever forget those lessons. Derek never forgave. Derek never forgot. And Derek had taught his son that some betrayals were so fundamental, so destructive, that the only appropriate response was permanent exile from their lives. Tyler had chosen loyalty over sentiment, protection over forgiveness, and truth over comfort. Derek couldn't have been more proud of his son. As the sun set on their quiet street, Derek and Tyler sat together, a family of two who understood that sometimes the most loving thing you could do was refuse to forgive those who chose to hurt you. Some bridges, once burned, were never meant to be rebuilt. And some people, once they showed you who they really were, deserve to be believed the first time. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.